Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
My cat Freddie loves to be brushed and cuddled. But stirring up his cat allergens meant sneezing and itchy eyes. Then I found Purina One Live Clear. It's cat food that reduced the major allergen and my suffering in as little as 21 days. Now, we feel closer than ever. If you have issues with cat allergens, you really need to try Purina One Live Clear.
Try new Purina One Live Clear today. Purina One, a difference from day one.
Welcome back to the Judge Jeanine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show. Joining us now is my friend, Dr. Betsy McCaughey. We've known each other for decades. And Betsy is one of those people who's out there and who is an in-your-face New Yorker. Although, I don't know, Betsy, are you from Connecticut or New York?
No, I'm in New York. I'm a New Yorker.
Yeah, of course you are.
I've lived in the same apartment since 1976. I am definitely a New Yorker.
Okay, and Betsy is not only a fighter, but she is someone who has a column in the New York Post. And this past week on Thursday morning, she had an interesting article or an opinion piece, I should say. But before we get to that, Betsy, I want to talk about China. And, you know, I remember during Obamacare, I used to walk around with that 3-pound notebook of Obamacare, the 1,700 pages that you have to pass it before you could read it. You remember that. But now we are in a situation that I think is even more dire. And that is that during the pandemic, we learned how dependent we are on China for medical supplies as well as medicine. Talk to me, walk us through that. What is that about?
This is really a big danger, and right now we can see it because China is playing hardball, Judge. It's not just about tariffs and the global economy. They are really trying to put our lives and our society at risk. So right after Trump rolled out his initial tariffs, China hit back, not with a tariff hike. That would be just a tit for tat like the other countries did. No, they totally suspended exports of rare earth minerals and magnets. Now, that's very interesting. They were unwilling to sell them to us at any price because they know that without those rare earth minerals and magnets, our auto industry is kaput, our defense industry is kaput. Now, what's next? Cutting off our medical supplies. And this is what you're getting at, Judge, because the fact is that well over 90% of our generic drugs originate in China. And our masks and our nitrate gloves and our blood pressure cuffs and all the materials we need literally to stay alive in hospitals. And you're right, we learned it during COVID because at the very beginning of COVID, when Donald Trump started calling it the China virus, what did China do? They nationalized the 3M mask plant and cut off all shipments of masks to the United States, like a warning bell.
Yeah, and when they cut off those shipments of masks, what happened was we found that we were not in a position to provide them. And in addition to that, the amazing thing is that, you know, Mr. Genius, who I think should be indicted, Anthony Fauci, you know, he had no provisions. He had nothing that he had prepared for. There were no masks in the NIH. There would literally, although he predicted in 2017 that there would be a pandemic, he actually predicted it. He didn't prepare for it. You know, so we were reliant on China for masks. We are the greatest country in the world, and we rely on them for masks and medicines as well. Why doesn't the United States make its own medicine and masks, Dr. Betsy
You're
McCaughey?
quite right. We should be making our own medicines and masks. The irony, the shocking irony that antibiotics are totally sourced from China. Can you imagine if our Army and Marines were on the ground and needed antibiotics and we couldn't get them because China cuts them off. That's the end. You can't survive in this world without antibiotics. So we have to start producing these goods here. And really, it's shocking after what we learned during COVID, how irresponsible the Biden administration was. And during Trump's first term as 45, he set up something called the Strategic Active Pharmaceutical Ingredients Reserve, like a big warehouse for all of the medical things we would need, right?
Right.
When Biden left office last November, it was only 1% stocked.
Yeah. Yeah. What a shock. What a shock. So what is it about certain medicines, or is it our inability to manufacture? Is it that there isn't any benefit from the government to produce medicines? Is it an intentional reliance on China is certainly not an ally. And also, why is it that we put ourselves in this vulnerable position after what we've been through with COVID?
Yes, you wonder, what are all those bozos in Washington doing, Judge? What are they doing? All those members of Congress, all those people in the Health and Human Services Department, what are they thinking? They're not doing their job. But we have to bring home the manufacture of medical supplies and drugs, and we can do it. We need investment tax credits to make it worthwhile. And I'm going to use the word, we need the T word, we need tariffs on the foreign production of those goods so that when investors here invest in making masks or antibiotics or blood thinners, they know they're not going to get whacked with cheaper foreign competition before they get off the ground. So we have to make it a design. We have to have an industrial policy to make our nation self-sufficient in these life-saving products. And actually, I think we can do it in upstate New York. The whole swath of upstate New York that was once devoted to things like producing cameras and Chinaware and other things.
Rochester, is that what you're talking about?
That's right. We can turn that into the medical supply capital of the nation.
Mm-hmm. But in order to do that, I mean, we've got to bring that kind of manufacturing here with, as you say, all of the incentives that can do that. You know, this is a national security problem, Betsy McCaughey.
Very much so.
And you know, the kind of nonchalant attitude where, you know, we rely more on China for pharmaceuticals than anyone else is a very frightening, and it's stupid. How's that for a simple word? And the list of drugs that are made in China, I mean, when you go through the list, it's unbelievable, the drug list of things that are created and made in China that we are not, you know, creating here. So what do you think in the end is going to happen? What's going to happen with the tariff problem? And, you know, China's smart enough to say, we're not going to raise the tariffs. We're going to just not send you the stuff that you need. Who wins in this thing?
China can't win a trade war, a tariff war, because unlike the United States, which has a huge domestic market, a market every other country in the world wants to sell into, China doesn't have a domestic market. Those people in China are so poor, they can't buy the huge amount of goods that the manufacturing plants in China are spewing out. They're all for the export market. So when President Xi says, oh, there's no winners in a trade war, sorry, there are winners in a trade war. The U.S. can be a winner in this trade war, which is very different from how Trump is dealing with the other countries. Those are our friends, our allies, and he is tiptoeing around, reaching deals for comparable tariffs. You do this, I'll do that. He's making nice. But with China, I do believe we have to play hardball because they're not in it to be a fair trading partner. They should never have been admitted to the World Trading Organization.
Still getting around to that fix on your car? You got this. On eBay, you'll find millions of parts guaranteed to fit. Doesn't matter if it's a major engine repair or your first time swapping your windshield wipers. eBay has that part you need, ready to click perfectly into place for changes big and small. Loud or quiet, find all the parts you need at prices you'll love. Guaranteed to fit every time. But you already know that. eBay. Things, people, love. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
This episode is brought to you by Loom by Atlassian. Are you feeling stuck at work? Get your team unstuck with Loom video messaging and move work forward. Use Loom to simultaneously record both your screen and yourself to share a quick update, provide feedback, train a colleague, and everything in between. Plus, add Loom AI to your meetings for instant written notes and recordings. Try Loom today at Loom.com. That's LOOM.com.
This episode is brought to you by GMC. When you have 4 new tires, every drive feels fresh. Right now, buy 3 select tires and get 1 for just $1 during the GMC Certified Service Fresh Start Tire Event. Visit gmc.com/service offers or see dealer for full details. At participating U.S. GM dealers only. Highest or equal value tire will be $1. Offer ends 5/31/2025. Not available with other offers.
And now, 2 pigeons bemoaning the fact you can choose the TV you want with DirecTV.
So now they can pick out their favorite entertainment when they sign up and save money?
You mean if you like sports?
You can get a sports pack.
What about entertainment?
Entertainment pack.
It's like finding an old pizza with your favorite toppings, which for me would be pineapple and toenails.
Pineapple?
Pay for the TV you want, not the TV you don't. Genre pack starting at $34.99 a month. Visit DirecTV.com for more information. New residential customers only. Local channels vary by market. Services renew monthly unless you cancel online. Credit card required. Restrictions apply.
Yeah, well, they are, unfortunately. And, there's another country that is providing the U.S. market with prescription drugs, and that is India. India has a huge percentage of exports into the United States of prescription drugs. India, and then China. And the amazing thing is that, hopefully with President Trump and this golden era, we'll be bringing all of that stuff back to the United States. The amazing part of it, this is, Betsy McCaughey, is that you got a president, at least who is trying, who is taking on the big issues that other presidents were happy to just sit and ignore. And whether it's trade and tariffs and manufacturing and, making sure that we bring back, the economy in this country, he's doing something about it. He's putting his reputation and his political capital on the line. They just sat there. The rest of them sat there and did nothing. It is shocking.
So right. Before Trump became president again, you didn't hear anything about our urgent need for rare earth minerals. Right. No one else was discussing the security and economic aspects of Greenland, for example, the dangers in the Panama Canal. We never heard about any of this. It was like a 4-year lobotomized administration.
That is amazing. And so tell my listeners why the rare minerals. Why do we need them?
These rare earth minerals are essential for making batteries and for making electric vehicles, and they're also form an essential component in many types of defense armaments, including aircraft. So we have to lock in supplies of those rare earth minerals. And as you may recall, just a few months ago, Trump was discussing having access to the rare earth minerals in Ukraine. Right. Wherever he goes, he has that on his mind because he knows we need it.
Interesting. And, you remember with the electric cars and the electric car mandate by the Biden administration that, they're building all these lithium batteries in China that we need for the electric cars. I mean, it's an intentional reliance on a foreign enemy. And the outrageous part of it is that in order to create these lithium batteries, they have to have these coal-fired plants. But they need us for the coal. Forget the, the environment, forget the, the atmosphere. I mean, we're going to breathe that air sooner or later anyway. Nobody seems to care about it. But, we've got a little leverage on coal, don't we?
We have a lot of leverage on China, and it's very unfortunate that in the mainstream media there's so little understanding of that. But the tariff negotiations with these other countries, friendly negotiations, are so distinct from China, which is an enemy that wants to destroy us. They're spewing out manufactured goods, not for their own market. They're flooding the world to destroy the economies of their rival nations. That's the real picture here, and we have to stop consuming them. Remember during World War II, you probably heard your grandparents talk about victory gardens and things that Americans went without because we were at war with Europe, right? Mm-hmm. That's the attitude we need to have again.
I don't know, Betsy McCaughey. I don't know if we'll ever get that back. Hopefully we will. Hopefully, with time and with President Trump, there'll be a recognition that until we are united in a pro-American, a pro-capitalist, a pro-family kind of country, we're not gonna survive. But I want to do a quick turnaround here, because on Thursday you had a very interesting article in the New York Post, Legal Aid's relentless pro-crime push. And let me just start by saying, as a DA and as an assistant DA for 3 decades in New York, we were publicly funded. Legal aid is publicly funded, but legal aid, unfortunately, and I want you to expand on this, is looking to create even more rights for the defendant when, as I well know, the victims are the ones ignored. What is the point of your op-ed piece?
Well, the point is, we all understand that the indigent deserve to be represented, and most people think that's what legal aid does. But if you look at what they actually do with the millions of dollars, our tax dollars, state and local tax dollars poured into legal aid, what do they do with it? They're up in Albany lobbying the state lawmakers. They're before the city council lobbying those lawmakers, and they're filing class action lawsuits, all with one goal: to make it easier on the criminal, to change what they call the legal landscape, so that criminals have more rights and police have no ability to fight crime. And let me give you an example. Right now, the Legal Aid Society is demanding that when police apprehend somebody for shoplifting or what they term a low-level crime, it's not low-level in my book, but a low-level crime, they don't want that person arrested anymore. They want for that person to just get a ticket, like as if you ran a red light, right? A summons to appear at a future date. Well, that's preposterous. First of all, if you don't bring them in, you have no opportunity to figure out whether they're already wanted for a more serious crime.
Yeah, you can't print them and mug them. I mean, what's the point? It's like a parking ticket. Here's a ticket. See you later, maybe.
And you won't see them later, because I've looked up the state data, and they appear less than half the time. So you're really letting them off totally. You're just decriminalizing shoplifting. Well, and that's what legal aid does. Yeah. You're going to smile when I tell you this one. Legal aid had the gall to demand that the NYPD turn over photographs, addresses, and tax ID for every active duty officer. They wanted to create a mug book. But instead of a mug book of perps, a mug book of cops, so that their clients could go through and complain about the cops and identify them. Even Judge Arthur Engeron, remember the fellow who presided over the Trump trial?
Yeah.
He even ruled against it. He said that's like putting a billboard in Times Square and a target on every police officer. Yeah. But that's what legal aid is doing now. They're trying to prevent adequate law enforcement.
Well, not only that, I just love it. And, I used to try cases with legal aid all the time. And I mean, legal aid, they call handcuffing dehumanizing. Well, no kidding. What they did to an innocent victim or what they did to a business owner is dehumanizing. What they do, they started the story, and look, if they could, they would give them all brass stars and let them go on their way.
Right.
But in the end...
I sat down with Ray Kelly last week. He and I have launched a real team effort called Save Our City. And the real focus is better law enforcement, getting the criminals off the street. And I went through all of this with him, and I hope that everyone listening will come to our website, saveourcityny.org. We have a couple of great events coming up, one with Daniel Penny and his lawyers, another one on...
I think I'm speaking at that one with Danny Penny.
Great. Another one on how to run a small business in this very anti-business environment we call New York.
Here's the thing. I mean, I absolutely agree with all of that, but we can get together. The most important thing that's got to happen is the bail laws have to be revoked and they have to be repealed. And in the end, you've got Heastie and Andrea Stewart Cousins, and they have no interest in that happening. And until that happens, criminals will run free. And whether or not they have to get handcuffed, whether or not they have to go into the precinct, doesn't really matter. What matters is we are a lawless state, and it's all on the Democrats. I'm sorry, I'm being political.
You are so right.
Yeah.
You are so right. And I keep saying, we're going to save our city in Albany. We can't do it in New York City alone.
Exactly.
We have to do it in Albany. It's why I'm seriously considering running for governor next year, because we have to change those laws.
Yeah, well, let me tell you something, Betsy McCaughey. We need someone who's an in-your-face person to run for governor. But in the meantime, we want to thank you for all of your op-ed pieces that are so good on the criminal justice system and on the fact that, unfortunately, the medicine that we are importing from China is literally putting American lives in danger. So, Betsy McCaughey, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to having you back again.
Your show is a public service. It's terrific.
Goodbye, Betsy. Thank you. Dr. Betsy McCaughey. And up next here on the Judge Janine Tunnel to Towers Foundation show, I will gavel out with my closing argument. It's all coming up here on the Red Apple Audio Network.